Hello everyone, welcome to another video about the revision competitions hype, the series of videos that we've been doing trying to hype up some of the competitions about to happen at revision. This year, back to the eWork 7 to 10 of April at Saarbrücken, Germany. And the compo that we're going to talk about today is the ASCII and ANSI and PETSCII competitions. I have with me Sir Garbage Truck, which is the main organizer of the competition. Hello Truck, how are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm very happy that you have corrected your mispronunciation. Show.
I sometimes say ASCII wrongly. It might have happened in the past. It will never happen again, ever. Probably. Anyways, we have a lot to talk about because we have a lot of entries to show for the whole history of demo parties that happen at revision. So let's get on with it. First, we needed to talk a little bit about the rules. There are quite a few for different reasons. I made a deal with Truck that we will try to cover them throughout the history thing. Otherwise, it will be 20 minutes here just talking about the different small details, and it would become a bit of a boring video. So, but you should definitely read these rules and make sure that you are in line with the different rules. They are here for a reason. We want entries from all sorts of people, not just experienced veterans, but new people as well that are submitting their first ASCII and ANSI or PETSCII entry. So make sure you follow the rules, submit your entry. Truck would love to see it, and everyone else would also love to see your entry submitted.
On that, just say the rules are there less to limit you, but actually more to give you more creativity. That's the reason why they're there.
Have a leveled playing field with everyone else.
It's basically there are reasons for the rules. And if you're new to doing this, we absolutely encourage you to try this out. It's fun. It allows you to do some creative stuff, and there are all sorts of uses for this in the demo scene. You may think, well, no, this is just a one-off competition. Loads of people can use things that are done in this competition for info files, release files, just all kinds of stuff. It's not just, there's ways of doing this that are part of the scene. Please continue.
That's why the ASCII and ANSI culture became so connected with the demo scene, because in the old days, in the BBS scene and even before that, every single file came with a small ASCII in it and an ANSI info file explaining what the content of the release was, and they wanted to make it pretty for people to look at. That's the spirit. That's the reason why this exists as an art form today. So, and it's still valid. A lot of people still use ASCII and ANSI on their releases, and PETSCII as well. Every single demo that you see on the Commodore 64 always has PETSCII on the loader. So ASCII, if you don't know what the hell it is, it's an American standard code for information interchange. That just means that they defined a set of characters to a set of codes, and it became a format that people would support it to have letters show up on screen. There were some slight differences and variations between...
No, there weren't. ASCII is it's a 7-bit encoding.
127. No more bytes allowed, or bits.
No more, only 127 characters.
And then
none of them are invisible, but there's 127 of them, and that's it. And it is a defined standard.
We should also talk about the ANSI character set. So ANSI was the American national standard for things. Try to make a version of ASCII. Am I saying this wrong, Truck?
No, it gets complicated. Unlike ASCII, ANSI is ASCII is a defined standard. ANSI is an art form, and many of your ANSI groups in the art scene that did things to extend ANSI, but they weren't standard. But there were things that were done, and this is very, very DOS based, very much rooted in the IBM PC.
A couple of the resources that I wanted to mention if you're into ASCII and ANSI, or if you're planning to get into it, the 16 Colors website is where most of the latest releases from ASCII and ANSI get published. Very great source to find different stuff. They also host these public servers. If you use Pablo Draw or Moebius, which are editors for ASCII and ANSI, they have this server where you can log in and do things collaboratively. So multiple people can be logged in at the same time and be editing the same screen. It's very interesting to promote more artwork, collaborations, things like that, sharing ideas. Also the website ASCII Arena, also very good resource to check out latest packs and things getting released. I think it's slightly more focused on the Amiga scene.
Completely focused on the Amiga scene. There is nothing here that deals with the PC. This is specific to Amiga ANSI, or I'm sorry, Amiga ASCII. Very few ANSI pieces are here. There are a few, but this is focused on Amiga ASCII. And shout out to Spot for finally getting it back up. Somebody else was supposed to get it up and working in the past, and well, truck ran out of time.
Let's move on. So you first started having this competition at Breakpoint. Before there was Revision, there was this demo party called Breakpoint, which was also known as the big Easter time demo party. And at the year 2008, you decided that there should be an ASCII and ANSI competition. So you contacted the organizers, as far as I'm aware.
I mean, I would have put it a different way. I just asked if we could do it because I wanted to do it, and I wanted to bring the tradition of ANSI and ASCII back into the forefront at the biggest party, because it was at Evoke and it did get some attention, but it felt that it was missing, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, it's the biggest party, and it doesn't have this subculture that exists in the demo scene. It's still that it was still active and still is. So,
and I mean, well, there were other I mean, Datastorm was a fantastic party for ASCII, Amiga ANSI, and now I'm the one that's getting it wrong. But there were many parties after that. I mean, I think Outline. I think in 2009 I was able to do the competition at Outline as well. But yeah, in 2008. I asked and they said, yeah, you can do it. And we didn't know how many entries would be there. It was unofficial, and we got 4, and that was awesome. And from that, then people said, yeah, okay, I will actually do this the next year. And this is what happens a lot of times at the Easter party, be it Breakpoint or Revision. We'll float something out there and see if it works. The photo compo was one. People weren't sure about the GIF compo at first, but boy, did that explode. And in a way, so has ANSI and ASCII. Not in the same, not so much of an explosion. But it has been growing constantly, and it's been fun to watch. And I'm very happy to have been doing this all these years.
So, moving on to the results of Revision 2011, we actually had 2 unofficial competitions, one dedicated to the block ASCII and ANSI, and the other to the remaining elements of the car set of the ASCII and ANSI, the letters and numbers and characters of that thing. So let's go over first the OS ASCII and ANSI. I will go over every single of the entries slowly, and Chuck, if you want to talk about any of them in particular as I go through them, you are welcome to do so.
I think if you'll just show the you show the you're going to start from the Amiga stuff. All right. The big difference here really is that the this one in particular, okay, this is PC style, because you can tell the difference because it doesn't use the slanted characters, meaning the slash and the backslash and so forth, and won't use the J and the L in the same way. With the Amiga Topaz font, you get really, really nice slants, and you're able to do things. Go on up to yeah, there, right there. You can see how the slants are on that G incorporated G, and they just make it's a
They connect more. They go all the way to the corner. Yeah.
That's right. And on the PC, they do not. So it's a stylistic thing about how this looks on the Amiga versus the PC. And so on the PC, you had more things that were based on your period and colon and your hash or the pound sign, and just using, you know, drawing curves that way. And they're the Amiga tended to move more toward, it would incorporate this, but you had these slants and angles, and you could draw hexagons and cubes and so forth. So that's really what this came down to, is separating those two stylistic choices. Because this type of thing, there's a there's a load of stuff that you can do with this without incorporating these big blocks. But when you get into the block ASCII, then you get more of this dithering, and you get more of this.
I heard that being referred as empty spaces, using more the empty spaces instead of filling stuff up.
There's more empty space. Yeah, there's more use of white space, and the block is more about defining large blocks and making shapes with the blocks. It really, you don't see much in the designs of those that are done with any other characters. And you can see things with, I mean, there's a lot of characters that are repeated using the Amiga style ASCII that you see a lot of, but you'll also see some people venture off and put other characters in there, like I don't know what the little,
we'll see some references of that later on.
what's the circle with the X? I guess it's supposed to be the European currency symbol. That's a weird symbol that we didn't have in the US, and I don't see it anywhere anymore, but it does get used in some Amiga ASCII designs for making curves.
I never saw that. I never used that, but I'm sure we'll find it eventually, so let's hunt for that.
If you go to ASCII Arena, you can find a lot of stuff. I think Mortimer Twang did it a lot. Also, there are people that we will reference during the show, both in the ASCII scenes and in the ANSI scenes, that are some of the many artists that have specific styles that people have emulated. Miss you, B.
So let's go on to moving on to the block ASCII and ANSI. You can see here a reference from Zephyros, and this one looks PC or standard PC.
Also, it's very interesting that this year, in particular, that the colored item was last. That is something that in years after that, people were saying, well, we have to add color because we can't compete with just the black and white. And that's definitely not the case, but it sometimes becomes a trend. But you can see on this one, you can see how the shading is. You have various light shading on it. Also, I think all of these were remote, to be honest, that competed this year, because I don't remember anybody from Chemical Reaction in years after that entering. I don't remember. I'll be corrected here.
Let's move on to the next year, 2012, and we only had a single entry this year, so they were merged. From what I heard, was because there were too many compos already at revision, so they had to.
There was a bit about, hey, we need to move these together. This is actually the first year that we used Solly. I had been using, I think it was Pablo Draw, and it was absolute dog shit.
It's what people use to draw it, but there's it doesn't have a full screen mode. It's
exactly, it doesn't have a full screen mode. So when we would before revision at breakpoint, when we would go to the full screen mode, it would switch the resolution on the PC, and that would throw the beam system for an absolute loop. It would go blank for 30, 40 seconds. Then it would finally come back up. And I would then switch, since it had already been there for a minute, it would be like 20 seconds and then we'd switch out back. And then people would come up to me afterwards and, oh, why didn't you show those for longer? Is I was being pressured to only use 10 minutes a time. Make sure you're done. And that also comes down to it. I always feel the pressure of it. And sometimes Kebby is standing next to me going, dude, you can show these longer. You don't, I know you're counting 30 seconds, but you're counting fast. And it's because I'm worried that I'm going to get yelled at for taking up too much time in the competition. Because everybody knows I will go on about this stuff for a while. So
I never noticed that.
when Kebby is there and he's correcting me on the time, it goes a lot better. But I sometimes have a problem where I'm just rushing this because I'm nervous about making sure that the things get shown well, and I want to do the best job for showing every one of the entries that's been entered, because the people put in the time to actually make the entry, and it does take some time to make these. You I mean, you can draw something really fast in a half hour and put it in the competition. That's not what this is about. This is about actually taking the time and making something that is of substance.
Oh, this one I can actually showcase Sally here. So
This is one of the things about Solly. I added the thing so that it would scroll automatically, and it would scroll at different speeds. Back in the day when you had a modem, if you had a 2400 baud modem, in my mind, it was perfect for reading, because the amount of text which would come through, it was just exactly at 2400 baud. Of course, I read fast. But yeah, you could see these things as you logged into your bulletin board. It would show this really long and awesome graphic, and then you would get to log in. And the menus were the same thing. You had wonderful menus on things, and this was both um, on Amiga boards and on PC boards. I didn't call any of the Atari boards. C64 boards had PETSCII and so forth. That was something. Anyway, the thing about that was, since we had these very long uh, competition entries at the time, when we showed them with Pablo, you would end up, when you would show the full thing, it would be 4 widths or to 8 widths of blank space, a tiny strip of white or color in the center, and then 4 to 8 blank screens to the other side. And it was not good for showing the entire thing. So I made this thing that would show the complete overview. And people both like this and hate it. A lot of the guys that draw, and some of the ladies that draw, have come to me and said, can you tell me exactly where it's going to break? Because I need to draw. I don't want the face to be split in half when you go to the full screen.
artists. It's a scanline view. It's supposed to give you a summary. It's not supposed to be like a static value.
Exactly, but it matters to them because it's their work and they want it to be shown a particular way. And this is part of the reason why these really long entries have kind of been, people are looking for making smaller things now, because they with ANSI, it looks better when you go full screen and you don't have these stripes. We tried the stripes. They sort of work. People like them, but only when their design doesn't get split in half. Ah, yes, this is one of those. This is the entry that Skin entered, and then H2O was there, and they entered this one, and it was saved with Pablo Draw as a bin extension, and I couldn't extract it to get the thing out. There was a problem with it, and I had to find H2O, and he had a good day, so he was a bit he just told me, just do whatever you have to. So
You managed to show it.
It took me about 45 minutes to get that thing to actually into a state that could be shown.
So this is why you should always save things on the proper file format.
Well, that's political. That gets into, and we will get into that. There are lots and lots of opinions from people that have had various experiences with these formats over the years. I'm an Amiga person, so I tend to look at things from how things were back when I was calling boards on the Amiga. And when I called boards on the Amiga, I actually was calling Amiga boards, and a lot of them did not have PC ANSI. It was not the focus. And there were loads of things you could do within that format, and I wanted to highlight that. But there are so many people that really, really like those slants, and they want to use those slants in a picture, but they want to stick to the 16 colors that exist in PC art. And I would have allowed it if people would have told me, and I asked, tell me what colors you want. But PC guys, people that grew up and used Windows and the PC and DOS, the idea that you could actually have different colors with ANSI is not foreign to them, but it isn't how they think first. And so when they think ANSI, they think a specific set of 16 colors that are defined and you do not change them. And that's a limitation that they like to work with, and they want things to be stick in that. So kind of had a clash there. I wanted to have I wanted to say, look, you can do ANSI with the Amiga, and you don't have to do it in this using this limitation. And they would say, no, we want that limitation because it makes us more creative. And in the end, more creativity wins out. It's better to show things that people are doing that are creative than sticking to, okay, well, this is a thing that we had in the past and we might get 2 or 3 entries. So this, as I recall, Prince made a special editor just so he could draw this picture.
It feels like a very specific, weird style of aliasing. Like I don't want to call it a conversion, but it feels like he did it more far away and then just transformed it into.
Well, you remember the year.
I don't know if I need to squint my eyes more, but it looks strange.
In years before this, he had done several of those really large pieces. I actually have a couple of the postcards that he did from the one year called, well, I'd have to go get the postcard, and it's not in this room, so let's not do that. But yeah, wait a minute, which was that one? Oh, look, it's this thing! I have no idea who this MJD person is. But yes, this was used as a, this is, hold on, go back up for a minute. Just go back up for a minute. Stop, please stop, please. This is the wrong font.
Ah, that explains things.
It's supposed to be shown in the Amiga font. In the competition, that was shown with the right font, but I'll have to bug Menace about it. But yes, that was then used by the guys in Epoch for their release at this.
I see.
So yes. I'll let you scroll this for just a second. I'll be right back.
Okay. No cats allowed. Ah! So this is how an earthly upset cat sounds like. That makes sense. And then this was the year of EvilBot, so we had a lot of EvilBot references as well. This one was by Louisa. Farfar. Oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
this would have then been used.
Yeah. For the results. I wonder if this was actually used or was just like a suggestion.
As I recall, this was a suggestion. Somebody made this up, and I'm not sure if this one.
Oh, they even have the shader showdown. A lot of results files don't have the damn shader showdown. I'm always like, why don't you put the shader showdown in the results file? See, this guy, Farfar, he knows what it's on about. He knows.
Yes, that I.
For Evoke 2016. So this was for Evoke, or planned for Evoke.
Yeah, that would have been planned for Evoke. Yes.
Or an invitation for Evoke.
Sure. But yeah, Moki and Oni and Farfar. Actually, this
it's very good.
I believe behind the scenes that Gasman is actually calling ANSI Love, so it's using the same technique that I'm using in Sali.
Is it?
Shout outs to Cleaner for that library, and he's the original author, and then
nice.
Andy of Blacktronics has made the JavaScript version.
I thought it was hand captured. The PNGs would be hand captured and uploaded. I didn't know that they converted directly from the files. So that's it.
You could, and see, that's the thing that since it converts directly from the file, it
sometimes it can
directly as it would in DOS.
Yeah, so it may screw up
or
Amiga stuff.
Well, it's not just the Amiga stuff; it's also ice colors.
Mm-hmm. Look, this one in particular, for example, it's ANSI, but it's on the Topaz. So this should be like the Amiga, but it's ANSI at the same time. But the Amiga should be grayscale. So this is like a new,
or not necessarily grayscale, but it wouldn't have this. You wouldn't have. You don't have to.
You wouldn't have this palette because this palette looks like it's PC palette.
It is. It is a PC, and this is what I was trying to say. It's like, guys, there's more to it. You don't have to do this. I mean, I will allow this, just let me know. And this person did let me know that this was using these colors. It did give me fits, and I was trying very hard to say, stick, if you're gonna do ANSI.
This would not run on a real Amiga. My real hardware would not show this way. But this is, for them, it's like an art medium. It's a special art medium, and they're exploring the limits of the art medium. So it makes sense.
Oh, you could load this in. You could, if you loaded this
in Pablo Draw
on a BBS, you could do this. If you were using NCOM, you totally could do it.
If you're using a modern one with a modern configurations, I could also play it using, the font from Sri Lanka or something like that. It does.
Using Russian Cyrillic font.
Cyrillic, yeah. If you load it on the BBS with Russian Cyrillic, you could have anything you want.
I've actually asked. I've tried to get a Topaz because there was a Topaz version of Cyrillic, but nobody draws using that. Dipswitch has said, "Look, Druck, nobody is drawing it, so don't worry about supporting it. It's not happening." There's nothing wrong with actually using the Amiga fonts to draw, but saying that's the only way to do it is wrong. And that's where I was saying, look, you could do it another way. But again, in the end, it's the creativity and the presentation that matters. And people wanted to present things using those nice slants, but having the limitations of that specific color set. And I've said that now that I understand where you're coming from about the limitations, yeah, I'm good with that. I'll still accept, if anybody wanted to do it, I still would accept a actual Amiga ANSI thing where you actually used Amiga and 4 colors and you redefined the palette to the way that you wanted it to. I would still allow that. But there's no one that has over the years ever entered one like that. So
I've seen at Flash Party because Flash Party have like this like 4 or 5 different categories for ASCII and ANSI, which is like almost a little bit of a mecca for the people who want specific categories. So the people can really explore this specific tight categories, and then there's one that's like extended, and people can do like almost pixel work in ANSI instead of doing the usual 80 characters limitations and stuff like that, which can be very liberating in some forms, but it always starts up this debate like, this is actually pixel art, it's no longer ANSI art.
That's right.
Or at least it started that debate when I asked about it on the Twitch chat. So I assume that it always happens.
It happens. There's a lot of tradition, a lot of opinions, and what matters in the end is providing a platform that people want to compete in. And because we only have so much time, and we only have so many entries, if I cram anything more in here, I already put in PETSCII again because I wanted to have something else. But if I add ASCII, or if I add teletext, which I would love to do, it might actually dilute it to the point where people don't want to compete. So I'd love to expand the competition, but I would need more time, and I'm not going to get that.
I'm gonna have to give my opinion that if you're already allowing PETSCII into the thing, you should also be allowing ASCII and teletext and that
I
stuff.
agree with you. I'm not sure I'm going to get that across. But the other thing that I would have to do is I'm going to have to modify Solly with the library that has been written. However, the fellow that did the ASCII and yes, Logjigger, he gave me the link to the source code for it, and I can actually eventually put this in. I haven't had time this year, but I do want to do it. And when I do actually have that in Solly, I will breach that. Um, and I probably can get it through.
So unfortunately, not this year, but it's in the
It's not going
plans.
to happen this year.
Okay.
But I will try to get it done for next year. There are. It's been a. It's it's been a hard time for everyone with COVID and everything, but yeah, it did not give me extra time or uh, brain power and energy to actually pull that off. Um, I do feel that I should do a rewrite of Solly. You and I went through the editor earlier today, and that absolutely needs something.
Yeah.
I know that there are parties that, uh, well,
Would use Solly if it was a bit more user friendly.
Moki just looked at it and he was like, "Oh, well, I can put in an extension in here with no problem to allow um, PETSCII." Actually, I think he's the one that put in PETSCII, um, and, um, and submitted it. And I talked to him about the editor. He said, "I'll just edit this stuff, in JSON. That's what I do all day." So there are people like me and Reality and Moki who are just like, yeah, this is fine, we'll just go ahead and edit it. But then there are other compo people who are running things who are just kind of going, I really have to deal with a whole heck of a lot of things, like the PC, the 64Ks are not working, and people are coming to me and they're just bitching, and I just want this to work. I don't want to have to actually spend time with it.
Yeah.
Make it easier.
Yeah, at Inertia, I was considering maybe using Solly, but then I looked at, I have to edit the JSON for every single entry, and I was like, yeah, I'm a single person for all the compos, I don't have time to be editing.
If it was easier...
If it was like drag and drop, and then you fix something that is wrong, like, okay, this is supposed to be Amiga font, I just click the Amiga, then it's fine.
I've been asking for years, and I need to hit up Defox and Garguy and T101 again, and I just want each one of them to provide me with a zip file or something that contains all the entries and allow and specifies how they want a format to be put back into their system. So you just download these things, drag and drop them, and just re-upload them into their system, and it automatically creates the slides and everything else. Because another Solly actually has in it a thing for displaying slides, but nobody uses it because they all have slide makers. And so I probably should take that out. It's a useless thing that doesn't need to be there. But yeah, next time for inertia, just hit me up and we'll go over, because I'd like to make that actually work better, but nobody's pushed me on it. And you need to hit me up like a month or two beforehand, so I don't. It's like if you hit me up a week beforehand, there's no way it's getting done.
Yeah, need actual time to plan for it.
Yes. Huh, I didn't remember. Oh yeah, Halsey did do one that year. That's right.
More PETSCII stuff.
No. I think I have to find out if Instancy is actually going to. Instancy should have an ASCII compo, an ANSI compo also.
It just happened. It just happened last week.
I know it just happened. Oh, did they have a compo?
I'm not sure. I don't remember.
I have to ask them. And what they'll probably tell me is, well, we would have it if you would show up. And then I will say, okay, I will definitely show up. I did mean to go, but again, it's been
complicated.
It's been a messed up year.
Where was I? Oh, this one first was for that entry that they had at Versailles. Was it SID radio?
The SID radio, the one with the tubes.
Vacuum tubes, yeah.
Vacuum tubes, yep. And this is a couple years after Fuel showed up. When Fuel showed up, and the first year, that was, before that, we'd always had good entries, and we've always had a couple. But Fuel showed up, and suddenly we had a compo. We actually had competition where you couldn't tell who was going to win. There was no clear winner. It was, there are 4 or 5 entries. And I also, as I recall, also Bryface from Misturgis showed up that year. And it was, I was over the moon. It just was fantastic. And the Fuel guys didn't even know, we had never met before, and we talked, and I introduced them to Ix, and they were like, wow, we heard there was a competition. We didn't realize there was actually a
an actual competition.
Well, no, it wasn't the competition. They knew there was competition. They just didn't realize that there was a community that actually was there at the party that was, actually wanted to see this. It was just because sometimes it gets minimized as, oh yeah, it's just 10 minutes there. The reason why it's 10 minutes is because there's so much to show. But it is. This is something that people take pride in, and they actually want to make something and compete. And ever since Fuel showed up, we've had more of that, and I've been thrilled with it. I remember Triple X came to me I think it was that year, and he said, Truck, I mean, Dipswitch has always had these things, and it's always been, a thing, but the last couple years, it's just gotten so much bigger and better. What the hell happened?
It seems the whole ASCII and ANSI scene has revitalized a little bit. I was seeing a BBS documentary the other day that was released on YouTube about a guy that was interviewing a few of the different active ASCII and ANSI people, and it seems like there was a resurgence, that it is still happening. Like, people came back, like the old people came back into it, and a few new people picking up, and it feels like it became a niche. The same way, I guess, like the Commodore 64 did. Like, it kind of died out, but then it kind of floated back up into activity and interest. And I think that ASCII and ANSI is going through that as well, which is really cool to witness.
People are remembering this is a cool hobby. This is something that you could do that allows you to be creative. And and people need that. I mean, it's I've been around a while, and I remember when.
What the hell is this?
Hold on.
Wow.
That one.
That's really cool use.
Yeah, there's this is a Finnish dude, and he always does this. He uses only these characters. And
That's really smart. Yeah.
the first ones that he started doing were kind of a bit iffy, but then he started getting really good with it, and he's done a lot of stuff.
I'm impressed. Well done, June Nebula.
He'll have another one, I think, this year. But yeah, there's
Resurgence of the ASCII and ANSI, that's what we were talking about.
yes, the people. I remember people saying, "Oh, I did that when I was a teenager. I'm just not going to do that demo scene stuff anymore because I'm an adult now." And I always thought that was a cop-out and just silly, because it wasn't that you did it as a teenager. It was a fun thing you did with friends that was creative. And and for some people, I guess they just looked at it as juvenile. But then sometimes people come back to it and they're like, you know what? I really enjoyed this. I missed this. And we've seen it in people that made mods and did music composition that have gone away and come back. It happened with the guys in Brainstorm, for example. It's happened.
And then you have a fresh take on it. Like you can achieve stuff that you wouldn't be able to do when you were a teenager, and you have new ideas, and you don't have as much of a pressure to be as perfectionist and stuff. So
That's a big one right there. The whole perfectionist thing. I mean, everybody has to get over that at some point, and some of us really don't. But yeah, they say with age comes wisdom. It's maybe not that. Instead, it's more with age and distance and time away, you can come back to it with a different perspective and tackle things a different way. And this is maybe something that, some people from some areas of the world, like North America, have trouble with. They spend so much time. Look, it's the thing that shouldn't have won.
yeah, I'm waiting for you to saying that this is the ice breaking thing. Also, it has that zero thing symbol that we talked about earlier on.
Yeah, it does.
It's a great image, though. It's really good.
Fantastic image. And I didn't think there was anything wrong with this.
Until you realize it used iced characters.
First, it looks like it is just the 16 colors, but it's not. This has additional ice colors, and the guys that have been dealing with those 16 colors all the time picked it up right away. And they came to me not after the compo, but after the actual party had closed, and said, "Truck, that shouldn't have won.
Yeah.
It used ice colors." And I looked at it and I'm like, "Oh, what?" And then I went back and I checked, and yes, it did actually say don't use ice colors so the next year I went into the rules, and I specifically pointed out, do not use ice colors. And every year Frankie comes to me and he says, "Truck, do you need to make any changes, or can we just put the rules up there?" And we always have trouble because there are so many rules. But we have to make these points about no ice colors. People do not want to compete on an unlevel field. They only want the original 16 colors when they're dealing with ANSI. That's what makes them feel creative, and that it's a fair competition. You come in there with extra colors, it's a problem.
I have mixed feelings about that, but for a lot of me wants to break the limits and just express outside the limits. But I understand why people, if it's like a competition, you need to define the boundaries of what you're competing for. Even if in demo scene, the competition is more like for showing what you can do, you still need that level playing field to attract people to participate, who want the competitive aspect in the thing.
And this is where people like you and I who are running the competitions, we want we want to give them everything so that they can do whatever they want. And
I want cool entries usually. I just want cool entries. I mean,
exactly. But when people come and say, no, please give us limitations, it makes us want to do this more. It goes against my instincts and your instincts. And
yeah.
well, so the bottom line is this. If we had, if you could do it like what Flash Party does, which obviously
Multiple competitions. Yeah.
multiple competitions, you have one which is just everything. Throw anything you want as long as it's text mode here. It's allowed. And then you have these other competitions, and those are for the people that really want to stick to one particular limitation or another. And yeah. And there's one from Cranksy. Can you say Cranksy?
Cranksy.
Yes. There you go. You got it right. Also, I don't know where Cranksy is. I wish I knew because it's been a while.
Oh, he came back on Mastodon. He was active again.
Oh, okay.
So he's no longer missing in action. He's just been away and focusing on real music with real instruments instead of tracked music and online things.
I also want to give a shout out to Spiny, who did that one, because Spiny was one of the people that sent me stuff in the Christmas card thing. He drew my name, and he sent some interesting stuff, including some ASCII.
Ah.
So.
Oh, it's Alucard.
Right here.
Alucard.
This Alucard thing. This we were able to display properly.
It's an Amiga car set and supposedly Amiga colors palette.
No, this is actually PC colors. But this is the Alucard Anachronist the year before. He had done the Master Boot Record one. And he used the same technique. He used PC colors.
And you showed it wrong.
And I showed it wrong, and I tried to get a hold of him beforehand, but I couldn't. And so I did the best I could, and then people came to me and bitched really badly, and I felt really awful about it. And especially because it's MBR. And the next year, because we were remote, it was easier.
Everyone was online, so they actually replied.
I wrote him a mail, and he responded, and we were able to work it out beforehand, and it got shown correctly. And he said he felt much better about it afterwards, and I was happy because I hate when the things go. You spend so much time trying to make sure that the competition goes right,
yeah,
and that everybody's stuff gets shown correctly, and then something goes wrong, and it just tears you.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking. I mean, there's a thing when you're submitting your production that says specifically information for the organizers, and people are supposed to put this information there, show this in this font, show this with this palette, to make sure that the organizers will show it properly. I still manage to fuck it up sometimes, despite having the information there, so it's not bulletproof. But if you're submitting, please always enter that information there. If there's any room for doubt whatsoever, make sure that the organizer will know what they're supposed to do. Otherwise, they will have to be chasing you down. And if at the live party, it's very hard to get a hold of people. And remotely, it's a lot easier, but you might as well be, offline or sleeping or, just not reading your email at the time. And when you're checking stuff right after the deadline, between showing the compos, it's really hard to get things right. So
I will say that Reality would be arguing with you right now, because Reality has mentioned in the past week that he always puts in information about how to show his demos, and the organizers seemingly can't read it. It'll be interesting to see when he submits something to Inertia this year.
He submitted last year and we managed to play it fine. Actually, the demo wasn't running properly, but that was too much alcohol related and not our not our system related.
That of course is another possibility. Yes.
It's me, Mario. At least the ghost from Mario.
Also, well, it also has, I think it has Kirby in it, but I'm not sure.
This one. This one. This might be a lot shorter. Okay. Decker 9.
I remember what year was this? Was this 2021 or
2021? Yeah.
2021. Yeah, this is when more people were showing up on Mastodon. Before the influx from this past November, and that one got shown around a lot on Mastodon. The Fediverse, not just Mastodon. But yeah, and I should mention that Mysterious has been on the Fedi for a long time, and their art packs are there, and there's a bot that posts random stuff from 16 colors every day. It's fun to actually have these things. Now, I have not been on Fedi for a couple of weeks because I've had other stuff, and I kind of the last time that I did this, LB came to me, "Are you feeling okay?" And it was like, well, yeah, I'm fine.
I just need some offline time.
In this particular case, I actually haven't been feeling fine, but yeah, I will return soon. I just I need when I go back, I will have things to say. So
this one also seems to be using Amiga font and PC colors.
He did this one specifically. He came to me beforehand and said, "Okay, I want to do both because the year before the Neocortex thing was only ASCII, and he wanted to try his hand at doing both. So he came to me and he said, "Hey, can I do this?" And he mailed me like a month beforehand to make sure it was fine. He also mailed me before Instansi because he noticed that Instansi did not have a results file, and he offered to do one for them because he was getting creative and the urge to draw stuff again. This is actually wrong. I will need to talk to Menace about this one.
It's not 8050?
That's right. It's not 8050.
But it looks 8050.
Well, maybe I'm not looking at it right.
It seems like squashed.
As I recall, the squash should be slightly smaller. I might be wrong. It might be with the distortion of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's
double check it afterwards. But it looks correct to me.
Okay. These are the things that, as an organizer, you have to make sure of. If it says 80 by 50, you have to make sure it's 80 by 50. And I screwed that up one year. Ted comes to me afterwards. I really wanted that to be shown 80 by 50. It doesn't look right.
Mistakes were made. Now we have a little sitcom.
Yes.
With unreadable things. Should I? What?
As I recall,
It's really unreadable. Okay.
Well, that's supposed to be because yes, I think this is one of the ones from our friends in South America, and they've been doing more stuff and submitting here.
Crocantes.
Since they
since the pandemic let them.
Well, no, it wasn't that. It was there are these things where people in some areas that are not necessarily Europe, kind of. The Russians have said this also. They didn't think anybody from the West was looking at their demos. And some of the folks in South America didn't think that anybody cared about any of their productions or anything like this. And as we showed up through the internet and looked at things, and Flash Party does everything in Spanish, which is awesome. It's great to see people actually doing things in their native language. And I say this as somebody
who
really speaks English. Oh, yes, I got some. This actually, somebody came to me afterward and said, this shouldn't have been in there either because it used ice colors, and I checked, and this one didn't.
That you're saying using native language. I don't agree with the native language because for me demoscene should be international. So and the international language should be English. But if they are focusing on the specific audience, I mean, if 80% of their attendants are Spanish speaking, I can understand why they speak Spanish as the main language. And they also give information in English, so Flash Party is very accessible.
Every once in a while they come on and they say, listen, we're glad you're here, but our language and the people that we're talking to primarily in this area speak Spanish. So bear with us. And if you have questions, we're glad to talk to you. And that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Now,
much better than a lot of European parties do it, where I went there and they would just talk their language. And I went to a lot of parties that did that in Central Europe throughout the years. And some still do, stupidly enough. And I never go back to those parties. If they treat me like that, I'm a visitor and they don't treat me like they know that I don't speak their language and they refuse to speak anything that I will understand, I don't feel welcomed. I don't go there anymore. So message to party orgas, be welcome to people who don't speak your language.
I have never had that. Nobody has ever done that to me, and I always feel bad about it because I always feel if I'm the only person there that speaks English and they switch to English, I just feel that they shouldn't.
No, it's the other way around. If there's a person that needs to be included, you need to be including them. And this is the part we have to stop and shout out to Harvest, because he did this. He released this at Revision, and the Revision org saw it and say, this actually could be a cool info file. Let's use this for the info file of the results.
Actually, as I recall, what happened was slightly different. The stream saw this and said, that has got to be the info file. And then DFox came back and said, absolutely.
It has the flags of all the different things, that all the different satellites that existed and everything.
Had one. This has so much detail in it that was just
it screams Revision all over it. This particular Revision, like Revision satellites, it screams completely. That was completely on topic. So very cool.
And the other thing is, this was his first entry at Revision.
Yeah, and his first, not his first ASCII and ANSI, but maybe it was his first ANSI that he released, if I'm not mistaken.
So those of you who are thinking, hey, I don't know where to start, this is a place that is good to start and start doing creative stuff. There have been a couple other folks that that was their first piece. Brittle of Dentrophis, I think, was also this year or maybe the year before. Matoikos did her first piece at one of the parties. It's a fun thing to do, but also do put some time into it. It's you don't want to just spend an afternoon on it.
Don't do a combo filler.
But yeah, it's not combo filler. This is an actual competition. You can actually spend time, getting some of your
creativity. Pour some creativity out of that.
Yeah, put some of yourself into it.
Let's talk about PETSCII dominating the current scene.
Well, it isn't necessarily dominating the scene. It is.
I'm very impressed with the Commodore 64 graphics at the moment. This past couple of years, if you go check the releases from Commodore 64 parties, all the graphics competitions in terms of pixel graphics, ridiculous high quality. And the PETSCII compos that they've been having, also ludicrous. At Zoo, it was insane, the quality of stuff. And this entry, also very worthy winner. Like the way that they use the different characters, and it's a very limited car set in PETSCII. And to be able to find these things, and it's a single screen, you can't go over the single screen, you have very limited colors, so it's very specific things, very specific limitations that you have. And they make stuff that looks like completely realistic, which is ridiculous. I'm very in love with the current Commodore 64, both the pixel art that's been coming out of it and the PETSCII art that's been coming out of it. I think it's been incredibly high quality, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they release at Revision this year.
I agree with that. The one thing that I didn't agree with was that it's dominated, because it's been as good or in the running for there have been pieces that have been in the running for the top bit that have been this, but there has been competition, and I like that there is competition. I don't like when it's there's a domination effect. It's like, no, I like it when somebody comes in and kind of shakes things up, and that I think is
Fair enough. Fair enough.
with the C64 stuff coming.
Okay, so we're reaching the end of this video. Thank you so much, everybody who sticked around. Just quick words to wrap things up. I hope you enjoyed this the series of entries that we just showed you. This talk about the ASCII and ANSI. Hope you participate to the compo. It's important that you send us your entries. Even if you're a new person, if you're a seasoned veteran, we want to see your entries in the compo. Any last words before we wrap up, Chuck?
Saying that start working on them if you haven't already. If you're concerned about a limitation or something, or you think that, or you want to be sure that your piece actually displays properly, hit me up beforehand. I can preview it beforehand. I can send you screenshots, and we can make sure that the darn thing shows up right on the screen. Yeah, participate, have fun doing it. Please enter the compo. We'd love to see that.
Okay, that's it, everybody. Enjoy. Take care. See you around.